Hey, welcome to day 2 of InDesign. Today's about placing some more text and images, which we did in day 1, but we're going to get more into text wrap and formatting options. And we're also going to learn about pages and how we can add pages and reorder pages and also create a master page, which is kind of like a template that you can apply to multiple pages. So let's get started by going to files.learnsoftware.org/InDesign. This is where you can get the day 2 files right here. I'm going to click on that, and that should start downloading your zipped folder. Go ahead and open that zipped folder. If you're on a PC, you'll have to extract those files, and then you should be able to see your Columbia images, a cover photo, example textbook text, textbook chapter, and we are going to go ahead and open up textbook chapter. Just double click on that, and while that is opening, I'm going to show you the example document for today. So this is what we hope to achieve, actually not by the end of today, but by next class. So after day 3, we should have a document looking something like this. For now, we're going to worry about getting the text in here in 2 columns, and we're going to get the images in there, but we are not going to do this formatting of the headings and the subheadings and such. Okay, so I'm going to close out of that, or just minimize. And the first thing you might have noticed when you opened your document is it said that there was a link missing. So if you go to your links panel, you'll notice this red circle with a question mark in it, and if you hover over it, it says missing. Double click to relink. So go ahead and do that. And basically what that's saying is that InDesign, when we placed that file, had a link to that file, whether it was our downloads folder or our pictures folder, and then somewhere along the way that file got moved, especially since we downloaded this from the internet. I don't know where the link was going to, but now it's broken. And so it just has to be relinked, and we can do that by selecting the cover photo and hitting open, and that's like relocating that file and then telling InDesign, hey, here it is, now create a new link to this file. And now that warning goes away and we don't have any missing files. So you do want to be careful of that when you are working in InDesign. Make sure if you are bringing in pictures and media into your document that you have them organized in one place. The best way to do it is just to have a folder for each InDesign project, and within that folder you can have subfolders of like images, text, whatever, and then put your files that you're going to use in there before you place them. That will kind of avoid those issues with missing links. You'll also notice though that this picture is super blurry, and that is just because InDesign doesn't like to load full res images. It just kind of gives you a preview, because if it were to load them, that could slow down your computer. So what you can do though, since we only have a few pictures, is go to the View menu and select Overprint Preview. This is almost like a print preview, and that looks a lot better, much sharper. Okay, so we only have one page. Let's go ahead and click on your Pages panel. And you'll see we only have this one page here. We need several more pages, so let's go ahead and click this sticky note. This icon is the kind of universal sign for new item in Adobe products. So if you click on that, it gives you a new page. And you can select it multiple times to get multiple pages, or if you right-click on this gray space in your Pages panel, you can select Insert Pages, and here you could say, you know, I want 200 pages or something. That's another way to do it. You also might have noticed there's a Move Pages, and you can also just click and drag pages around. If I wanted to reorder them, I could just switch things around. Right now they're all blank though, so that doesn't really do anything. Okay, so I'm just going to put in that many for now. I think I will need more, but I'm going to show you a trick that will automatically add pages for us later. Okay, so let's take a look at our example document. If we look at this cover page, we have that, and what we need now is our text. So we can go ahead and place our text just like we learned in day one, and then we can format it into the 2 columns and everything. So let's go ahead and do that by hitting Command D and make sure you're in the right page. I'm going to go to page 2 here, and that's just by double clicking on that little thumbnail of the page. I'm going to do Command D and select my text document and hit Open. There are a couple missing fonts. Sorry about that. I don't know what's going on there. Close. And now we're ready to place our text. So you might remember from last class that you can just click and drag a text box, and then if the text isn't fitting in there, like right now, there's this red box that tells you you have overset text. Now another option is to, I'm going to undo that, is to hold Option or Alt while clicking and dragging that box, and see my cursor change right there? It has this little swervy arrow. That is the autoflow sign, and it's showing you that it can actually autoflow into another text box if you hold down Option. So I'm going to show you what that does. And first I'm going to turn on my margin so I can see what's going on here. I'm going to hit W. There we go. And maybe I'll start just a little bit lower, like right here. So I'm going to hold Option and click and drag one big text box here, and see my cursor automatically reloads with more text. It doesn't give me that like red box that I have to click, it just automatically reloads it. So that's what Option will do for you. So I can go ahead and do another one if I want here, and I can keep on doing that. Another way to autoflow, so that's actually technically called semi-autoflow, and it just loads your cursor for you, and it will keep going until the end of a frame is reached, right? And then it just reloads your cursor. But autoflow, true autoflow, is when you hold Shift and click. See, now that swervy line has a solid line instead of this kind of dotted line. So Shift click is going to actually fill in your whole document that you are placing, and it'll keep adding frames and keep adding pages until it is done placing that file. So it's really nifty if you just want to quickly get everything in all at once. And so I'm going to hold Shift and click, and look at that. It just is guided by the margin lines, and it just fills it in. And I have several more pages now that it's added to complete the document. So that's my favorite trick for adding text if I have a very large document in InDesign. There's also another one, another autoflow called the fixed page autoflow, and that one is Shift and Option. You hold both of them at the same time and then click, and you can add frames that way. It adds frames for you but not pages. That's why it's called fixed page autoflow, is because it won't keep adding pages. It'll just stop when your pages run out. So any remaining text after that would just be overset text, and you'd have to go in and add more pages and blah blah blah. So that's your third option, but again, my favorite is Shift click. If you remember that shortcut, you'll be good. So we need to format this text though, because right now it's just one column and it doesn't look super great. So I'm going to double click in my text frame, any text frame, and then hold Command A. That will select all. And all these text frames are threaded, meaning that they're connected. So if I were to delete this frame right here, you'll notice that this text box on the right will actually change, because when I delete this, the next text box would be this one, and that's going to fill in with this text. So if I show you that, see how that changed? So you're not going to have to worry about your text being cut off or little gaps in it just by deleting a frame, because it's all threaded together, and so it can react when you make changes to the size of a text frame or delete it. Okay, so again, Control or Command A. And if you remember from day one, our columns is in the paragraph formatting controls. And it's right here. I'm going to increase that to 2. You can do 3 if you want. That looks a little better. And now let's look at our example document again. Before we place the pictures, I'm going to go ahead and talk about master pages. So right here in your Pages panel, you have this A master. You can actually have multiple masters. If you right click, you can see this option for new master. It can give you a B master, C master, it can keep going. But the default is just the A master, and basically I can put certain elements on the A master and it will apply to every page that has that little A on it. So all of my pages right now have that little A in the corner and it says A master applied. If you don't want a master applied to a page, you could actually see this none here. You could drag this page onto a page and then it'll take off that A, and now none is applied. So perhaps you don't want a master on your cover page because that one's kind of different than the rest of your document, but let's just say I do. Okay, so to get into your master, you have to double click on one of these pages here. Once you do that, you'll notice you can't scroll down or up to other pages. If you're not in your document really, you're just in the master. So if I were to make changes to this, it'll actually make changes to everything in here. So if you look at this example textbook file, we have Countries of the World italicized in the top left corner, and Chapter 10 Columbia in the top right corner. And we've got this yellow bar going across the top and the bottom of every page, and we have page numbers. So we're going to add those elements right now. I'm going to start with the text in the top left corner. I'll just kind of slap it on wherever. Countries of the world. And I'm going to select that text, go to my character formatting controls, and just change my font to Times New Roman and make it italicized. Let's try that. And then you could even change the color if you'd like. These colors aren't super great here, so you could, if you want, double click on that T and you can get a different color picker here. So let's see, if I wanted a gray, it's going to be kind of hard to find. I don't really like this type of color picker, to be honest. Okay, I'm just going to stick to this dull grayish lilac color. Okay, I'm going to move that around until I like where it's placed, and then I'm actually going to just copy that onto the other side, onto the next page, the facing page, for my Chapter 10 Columbia text. So I'm just going to hold Option while in my selection tool, hold Option and click and drag this text box over while holding Option, and that actually copies it. That's a really nifty shortcut. And I'm going to double click in there and change the text. I just did that because I didn't want to have to reformat my text again. Columbia. Okay, and then I'll just take my selection tool and move that to where I want it. There we go. And now we can go ahead and do our page numbers as well. So go ahead and add a new text frame. And this one is sort of special. So you're going to right click inside that text frame, go to Insert Special Character, Markers, and select Current Page Number. When you do that, you'll get a letter A. That is because we're in the A master. If we were in the B master, it would say B. And then, now that I have that in there, you could go in and format it to whatever color and font and size and everything, but I'm just going to leave it how it is. And I'm going to take my selection tool, and I'm going to do the same trick. Hold Option and click and drag. If you hold Shift, it actually keeps it in a straight line as you're dragging. I'll just move that to the very corner. There we go. And that is going to be another page number on the facing page. So now I'll have one in my bottom left and my bottom right corners. Lastly, we'll want to add that yellow line going across the top and bottom. So your line tool is right under your type tool. Go ahead and click and drag. I'm just going to do it all the way across, even off the page. And if you hold Shift, it'll keep that line straight for you. And right now it's black stroke and really thin stroke. It's only 1 point, which is really small. So first I'm going to change the color by clicking on this little drop down, and you could pick the yellow here or the blue here. If you want a prettier color, not one of these default colors, you can double click again on that stroke and you'll get your color picker. So here maybe I'll pick a nicer yellow. That's good. And then your stroke width is right here, so I'm going to change that to, let's say, 5. If that's too skinny for you, you can go a little higher. And now I'll just move it around because it's covering my text. Perfect. Oh, that was more of a deep gold than a yellow, but okay. Then I'm going to use that same trick, Option, and click and drag. Hold Shift to keep it straight. And now I have a line at the bottom as well. However, I think our text frames will have issues with this line because I think they're going to run into them because they're going straight all the way to the margins. So you might want to just move everything away from the margins for now. I'm just using my arrow keys to push things up. Okay. That might still be too close, but that's okay. So now let's go ahead and double click in our actual document. So I'm going to go to page 2, double click here, and look at that. We have everything we need on the page. Looks beautiful. Alright, so that is master pages. And again, if you don't want it applied for some reason, let's say you're going to put, a page in here. Let's do that actually. Insert a new page, and this is going to be your table of contents or something, and you don't want the bar across the top and bottom. You just want it to be kind of a separate format. Maybe you'll just take the none and apply it, and that will take it off that page, those pages. So whatever has that A, that's where it's being applied. You can have multiple masters again, so if you go to the next chapter that's about Peru instead of Colombia, and you have to have, a red bar going across, and the top right is going to say chapter 11, Peru, then you can go in and make a B master and do it for Peru. Okay, now let's go ahead and add our images. So you can pick whatever images you'd like, or if you want to, you can try to copy the example file, but actually some of these you won't know how to do yet because we're not going to learn getting rid of the background and stuff until the next day. So I would go ahead and just pick your own pictures. And those should all be in the practice folder in the Columbia Images folder. So again, Command D, navigate to your files, and you can select multiple at once by holding Command and clicking on multiple files. And then you can hit open and you'll have a loaded cursor with several images, and you can scroll through them with your arrow keys, left and right arrow keys or up and down, and then go ahead and place your images. You'll notice that it's covering your text, but that's okay because we are going to learn how to text wrap. Once you've placed all your images, you're going to want to add the text wrap panel. So you might remember that from day one. You have to go to the window menu. Click on that and select text wrap. And you can drag this into your panels over here. When it highlights blue, you can let go. And now it's in this nice little home. And if you click on that, you'll see a few options. There's a wraparound bounding box, wraparound object shape. Usually for rectangular images, this second option is great. So I'm going to click on this picture I have and select that second option. And you'll notice the text moves, and now it's not covering anything. If I move this image around, the text actually wraps around it wherever I put it. It's awesome. You'll also notice that there is this option right here to add padding to any side of this image. So I'm going to add it to this option here, and you'll see that now it's going to leave some more space between my image and the text. So go ahead and add a text wrap to all your images. And move them around so that they look good. Now I do want to point out here that images are really tricky in InDesign. To be honest, they're really frustrating at first until you learn kind of the tricks and shortcuts for getting them to work for you. So unlike Word or PowerPoint or other programs you may have used with images, you can't simply just resize an image in InDesign by clicking and dragging the corner. See how that's not doing anything? And if you actually make it smaller, it starts to crop the image, which when you first are working with images in InDesign, it makes no sense. But you'll learn to realize that there are actually 2 frames for every picture. So this blue frame that we're looking at right now is just the window through which we look at the picture. So if I make that window smaller, it's making it so I can't see the rest of the picture. It's like cropping it. If I make it bigger, it doesn't make a difference because that picture ends right there. But if I double click on a picture, I'll get this brown orangey box, and that frame is the content frame, the actual picture frame. And if you click and drag that, well, if you don't hold shift, it'll actually distort your image, make it look kind of wonky like that. So if you hold shift, that will constrain the proportions and keep the aspect ratio. And that will actually resize the image itself. Now I'm cutting off the edge here because my frame doesn't go that far, so maybe I want to make it bigger there. So just, if you want to learn how images work in InDesign, play around by single clicking and moving around, and then double clicking and moving around, and you'll start to kind of get a feel for what's going on with the 2 frames. Now, sometimes people get frustrated and things get moved around so much that it just drives them crazy. So one thing that I would do, if that drives you crazy, having to keep the frames together, is just move one of the frames, whether it's the blue one or the orange one, to where you want. So let's say I want this picture right in the middle, going all the way across. I'm going to put it right there. But this blue frame is really messing me up because it's not going all the way to the edge up here and it's leaving this white space. So I'm going to right click, go to Fitting, and then select Fit Frame to Content. The content is my orange one, and that's what I want the frame to fit to, so that's what I would select. And when you do that, they snap back together and it looks a lot better now. So that right click, fitting, and then these options here are going to be really useful when you're working with images. Another thing with images in InDesign is that people tend to want to click and drag this center of the image, but that actually grabs the content and then moves it within the blue frame. So you're going to end up cropping your image if you drag from that center target symbol. And so what I would do is just click and drag anywhere but that center part. So I would just go to this side and click and drag that, and that will actually move the picture and the blue frame as well. So just remember that pictures have 2 frames in InDesign, and you just have to know which one you're working with and remember your fitting options, and then you won't be frustrated with pictures in InDesign. And once you're done adding the text wrap, you might want to just zoom out and look at your document as a whole. Make sure everything looks good. You might want to hit W to turn off all the guides so that you can just see what your document looks like. And that looks pretty good. So next class we are going to cover how to add paragraph styles, and with those paragraph styles we will learn how to make a table of contents. And InDesign has a great feature where it automatically makes a table of contents for you based on your headings. And we're also going to learn how to do this more advanced text wrap where we find the edges of a picture and it can wrap around it. You'll also notice with the soccer ball it does that. So those are things we're going to learn next time. Alright, hope you learned a lot about text formatting and about placing images and text wraps today, and we'll see you on day 3.